Space Coconut.
So, before we get started today, I wanted to thank Zen Hikuyami, Skrunk Trep, It's Your Funeral, Evil XX Queen, Tomo, Aaron Strash, SOS Guilherme, I think, Zero Divides, and Captcha 0100. I wanted to thank you guys for following me on Mixer. I haven't even streamed anything yet, but you guys are interested enough to sub to the channel even before I have anything up and even before I'm ready to stream. I appreciate it. I mean, who else can say that? Well, I guess a lot of people can. I'm not that special, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I am planning on streaming relatively soon. I have some artwork and some stuff that I want to get in order. I have my, I want to get some alerts and overlays and things. I want to get things set up and nice, so it's not just this plain old noob stream that I'm like, I'm a streamer now. I want to actually have some stuff going. So I will be streaming on Mixer. It's going to be relatively soon. I just have some stuff to set up. The stream test was successful, so my cell phone holds up. I tether my cell phone to my PC in order to work on the internet because my internet is actually garbage. So if we ever have problems during the stream, we can blame Verizon. I appreciate you guys. If you're interested in following me also, all of the links for my things are down below. So now, let's talk about what we're going to do about Ruinpocalypse. With the Ruinpocalypse upon us, I think it's time we start talking about what I've been doing since forever, and that's not use Ruin. In its place, I've been using Dying Light and Pop Goes the Weasel for my playstyle with the trapping killers, the Trapper and the Hag. It works out better for me. I sacrifice the first couple of gens, and then hopefully, depending on the skills of the survivors, by third gen, I have 2 or 3 stacks on Dying Light. We've, messed with the obsession here and there, but for the most part, we have enough tokens to start impacting their progression of the gen in the second half of the game. But before, this wasn't a guaranteed pip. It wasn't a good playstyle for ranking up, per se. I still ranked up. I did okay because I'd have those matches where I just kind of stomped the survivors. But in addition to the Ruin change, the devs decided to implement a change to Gatekeeper, which is actually going to make ranking up for a lot of killers much easier than it was before. Well, at least getting those few pips that they probably should have gotten. The problem with Gatekeeper was that there was nothing a killer could do to stop a survivor at the beginning of the match from getting gens done. Their primary tool for that was Ruin. You could use Corrupt Intervention, but I mean, there's no guarantee that all of the survivors would start next to gens that were blocked off. There was a good chance that a survivor could be near another gen, depending on where you landed and how the spawns worked and all of that. Because it was a timer perk and it only lasted 2 minutes, I never liked Corrupt Intervention. I know a lot of other Hag players are like, you should use Corrupt Intervention, it'll give you time to set up at the beginning for the Hag. But I found that sacrificing the first gens and focusing on the late game, the mid to late game, just worked better for me. And then going back, I'm rambling, going back to Gatekeeper, because now the score for Gatekeeper doesn't care how many gens are up at the start. It only counts as if at least one gen is not turned on. So even if this happens to you...
The majority of survivors in the game right now are red ranks. So you have the highest pool of players to find. So make sure no one spawned over here. I don't like playing without perks. It makes me have to really focus because I can't really make mistakes. Kind of fun. Oh my, are they really getting this gen done before I can? Okay, they did a whole gen before I even crossed the map.
Where you're traveling, I watched her stream while I was doing Mixer stuff, and in the case of this, there was nothing that she could have done to stop them from finishing that gen. It was going to get finished because of where she was, because of the killer that she was, and just because of how the survivor spawned. Ruin might have, spared that. But her Gatekeeper in this case, well, depending on, how the match would have gone, could have been better. But there's nothing she could do about it. It was all under the control of the survivors. With the new Gatekeeper, it doesn't matter if 4 gens are finished in the start of the match. The way I understand it, as long as at least 1 is finished, you're getting the full value of the time that that gen is up during the course of the match. And of course, I don't know for sure. I don't know the numbers, and I haven't really taken a close look at the patch notes for it. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll see how the ranking goes with that. But I think the majority of people are going to be playing with Doctor. They're going to be playing with Ruin, but I don't think they're going to be paying too much attention to the emblem system. Not to mention the number of salty people who are going to be disconnecting, just because. Anyway, so because of the change to Gatekeeper, mid-game and end-game strategies are still going to be effective, because even though you're sacrificing the gens at the start, it's not going to impact your emblem in that matter. As far as I understand, you also get a bonus for the gates not being opened. So if that's the case, if you're solely focused on pips, if you're solely focused on the rank, then you're not going to need to slug for the 4K to get the iridescent emblem on the other thing. The survivor, if you manage to get into that situation, won't be able to turn on the gate, so you'll get that bonus, and that bonus might help you with the rank, with the pip. Hooray! You won't double, but that's another thing altogether. Anyway, I've kind of been rambling, but my point is that now that Ruin doesn't help you at the start of the game, there's nothing any killer has that will help them at the start of a match. The focus now, killers will have to focus on the mid-game and the late game to do well. The beginning of the game, the beginning of the match is lost. There's really nothing you can do about that, especially if you are a setup killer. A lot of people immediately thought about using Noed and Blood Warden and worrying about the end game. And all of the forum posts that I saw never mentioned Dying Light, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yes, there's the downside to the survivor healing and rescuing faster, but when it comes down to it, if you can incapacitate the obsession, take them out, hook them, whatever. You kind of play semi-normally and smart around the obsession. You can actually do pretty well, and it does really well in crushing the end game, especially in combination with Pop Goes the Weasel. They're working on the last of the few gens, and you manage to get one down, you pop them, you crush 25% of their progress, and they have to spend more time working back that progress because of Dying Light. Well, depending on if you can track down the obsession. But that's what I've been doing for a very, very long time. Many of you who watch this channel know that I prefer Dying Light and Pop Goes the Weasel over Ruin. I would rather not use Ruin and use other things. Everybody's really freaking out about Ruin, but it's honestly not that huge of a deal. The Ruin nerf itself is not a big deal. What's a big deal is that the devs are being really stupid about it and really tone deaf, and they aren't paying attention to the player base. They're not listening to the people who play this game the most, and that's just infuriating to everybody. But anyway, I honestly think that the Ruin changes are going to go through. And the reason for this is because the devs probably feel like they're in a place where they can afford to piss off everybody. The only other time that I remember the player base being this riled up was with these flashlight and palette stun changes that I like to reference every so often on the channel. That's the only other time that I can think of this much rage being in the forums. So there is a really, really strong possibility that the Ruin nerf won't go through, at least until they address the problem that Ruin solves before removing Ruin. And that's gen speed, objectives. It's the beginning of the match. It's the feeling of the pace of the game being set by the survivors, when it really should be the killer who sets the pace of the game. Does the killer, I mean, how interesting would it be to have a killer that chooses, oh, are we going to toy with you? Are we going to spend a lot of time doing this? Am I going to try and prevent you from doing this? You know, am I going to torment you during the course of the match? Or am I going to be the killer that goes all out and, you know, tries to slaughter you as fast as possible and you're scrambling for your lives? The pace is dictated by the survivors, so the killer has no say in what the killer can do. With this change, the killers are going to be forced, well, are going to feel forced to slug. They're going to feel forced to bring NOED, all of those other perks. Overall, this change is going to tick off a lot of people. But anyway, if it goes through, which I think it will, because these devs are these devs, I really suggest starting to transition to use Dying Light with whichever combo you like. Like I said before, I prefer Dying Light with Pop Goes the Weasel. Its end game potential is pretty strong, and then it starts going mid-game, depending on how fast you can down and hook survivors, and if you manage to find your obsession first or second. Preferably second, or not right away. But those are just my thoughts. You know how I feel about these types of situations, but I guess we'll see. As you're watching this, the PTB is up and out, and I'm probably going to play it. I want to find out, I want to get a feel for the doc and see how he feels. I want to test around with the Gatekeeper and all of that. There are a few other things that I want to play around with, but I'm not going to do too much about it. We can all check out the other streamers who do this full-time, and we'll see what they have to say, and we can see for ourselves through their eyes. But we'll see how it goes. Until then, I'll see you in the fog.